As I mentioned in the last piece, there are times when various things are going to come into conflict, various ethoses or even ethical outlooks. And one of the places where I've seen this come into play, maybe I don't want to say more often than others, but it comes into stark contrast, is in biomedical ethics. And I've been asked over the last several years to go into a biology class and talk about biomedical ethics, and so I've learned a little bit about it. And as I said in the last video, I found this schema that I'm going to outline in just a second to be helpful in a number of different places as you consider ethical dilemmas. And again, this is not necessarily theological, and we'll talk about that again in a few minutes. But this is another, like I said, a schema. So this is theory, I guess, if you want to call it that, is known as principlism. And it was developed by a couple of ethicists by the name of Thomas Beecham, Beauchamp, Beecham, and James Childress in a book that's now in its 5th edition called Principles of Biomedical Ethics. And so they've come up with these, with like I say, 4 principles. And I just want to outline them and then maybe give you a couple of examples of how they might work and how they don't. And so the first one is in terms of, let's just think in terms of a biomedical issue. Let's say it's a question of you're being asked whether or not you need an amputation. Okay, you've got a gangrenous foot. So the first principle is one of autonomy. Theoretically, you should know, the physician should tell you what the issue is, and you are an independent agent and are free to make your own choice. Very American, autonomous. It's all about informed consent. The second principle is known as beneficence. So the action is performed that it's going to contribute to the welfare of the individual. So going back to the issue, let's say, of an amputation of a foot, that's going to contribute to your overall welfare. So is it an ethical action? Yes, it's an ethical action because it's going to contribute to your own welfare as long as you can give consent. The third principle is known as non-maleficence, which is kind of the opposite of beneficence. So you're not going to impose harm on someone. The doctors aren't going to just amputate your foot because they think it's a good idea, or that it's fun, or, oh, I want to do this experiment and this foot looks like it's the right one to do it on. You are not, that would be an unethical action, doing something that's going to harm someone. So beneficence is going to be doing good for somebody, and non-maleficence is not doing something bad for someone. You could almost see it as similar to that false dichotomy, I would say, between the golden rule and the silver rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or do not do unto others as you would not have done to you. Two sides of the same question. So maleficence, non-maleficence, and beneficence can be seen as that yin-yang, two sides of the same coin. And then the fourth category is known as justice. So, is it fair? Is it equitable? Appropriate treatment in light of distributing justice. So this one doesn't work quite so much in terms of the amputation question, but I think you can see the question of, is it just? So you can see how this might work with some experimentation on certain populations or something like that. Is it just to do them on them as opposed to on another population? Is there a similarity between justice and fairness or not? Are the same? Is something fair? Is that just, or are those two different considerations? Should everybody get the same thing, or should everybody get what they deserve? And those are often different. And the classic cartoon that I saw is, Justice is not giving everybody uh, the same size of a stool to stand on to see over a fence, because everybody might not be the same height. You want everybody to see, so you may be giving different people different size stools to stand on. That's just to make sure that everybody can do that. Giving everybody the same thing is not. So those principles of making ethical decisions, you know, they work in a lot of different ways in different religions. We can talk about this maybe in a little bit, but different religions might make these, might weigh one category over another, and you can see how this might work in some of the, you know, the hot button medical issue debates. You know, abortion being a classic. The fetus cannot give informed consent. So there's a question of when should that fetus have autonomy, or there's a question of beneficence. Whose welfare is being considered, or non-maleficence, upon whom are you harming? All of those things can come into conflict with one another as you're trying to make this decision. In different religions, for example, or different ethical systems, or even different ethoses, might look at these in very different ways. And that's one of the problems that some of the pro-life side has had to deal with, is, you know, which life is worth more in a situation of rape or incest or malformed fetus or something like that. Which life is worth more, the mother's or the fetuses? You know, so that's an ethical decision that people are going to make in different ways. And the language, for example, of beneficence or principalism, beneficence, non-maleficence, autonomy, helps sort some of that out. It doesn't answer it, but it helps sort out some of the difficulties surrounding that. And you know, this comes up again in different ways. In another class that I teach on questions of animal ethics, you know, what animals have what rights? How much can you do with an animal, experiment on an animal, when it cannot give informed consent, for example? And that creates its own set of really difficult conclusions. And different people are going to come down in different ways, not only depending on their theological standpoint. If you are a member of a religious group that attributes soul to animals, that you are going to come down on some of these questions in a different place than a religious group that does not, that says that only humans have souls. It's a theological difference, and it will have ramifications in terms of how you make some ethical decisions.